Just because his wife was sitting on another man's thigh in front of him, this man found his father-in-law, but who knew that after hearing this, his father-in-law asked him to endure a little longer. The man couldn't take it and cursed his wife for being shameless.
She's my daughter before your wife.
His father-in-law pointed at his nose and told him to watch his words. It seemed like it wasn't the wife who did something wrong, but him. People around were also waiting to see his jokes. Faced with such humiliation, the man could only swallow his anger because the old man in front of him was the local gang leader and famously ruthless. He couldn't afford to provoke him, but just when he thought he could endure it and let it pass, his wife unexpectedly took advantage of the situation and brought that man home while he sat in the corner, watching his wife, Song Namran, leave and waiting for her return. Suddenly, he turned on the lights and said, "What the fuck?" He wanted to let his wife know that he was fully aware of what happened. He just wanted to save face for himself. But who knew his wife not only felt no guilt but also said they were just chatting and nothing happened? The man ignored her and went straight upstairs. Their feelings for each other had long been dead, but the only thing he worried about was their son. Little did he expect that his wife would be the first to take action. She asked her own father to find that man to force him to break up. The man showed no emotion upon hearing this. He just wanted to leave this woman as soon as possible. However, his father-in-law's words were unacceptable. Not only did he want to kick the man out but also keep his grandson, the man instantly became furious. He could give up anything, but he had to keep his son by his side. Without saying a word, he got up and left. The next day, the gang leader sent two henchmen to take him and his son to an amusement park. The man wanted to refuse, but now they had no choice but to go with them. They arrived at the amusement park, where the gang leader had been waiting for a while. He asked his two men to take the son to play while he wanted to have a private conversation with the man. The two of them got on the Ferris wheel and reached the top when the man saw his wife's figure below. Then she took their son onto the ride. It turned out that the gang leader intentionally tricked him onto the Ferris wheel so he could take the son away from him. The man wanted to resist, but suddenly a gun was pointed at him. He could only watch helplessly as nothing could be done. However, the gang leader didn't want to let him go. They threw the man into the trunk and brought him to a deserted area. There was an abandoned RV. They threw the man inside, poured a bottle of liquor down his throat, and then soaked the RV with gasoline. They waited for him to pass out from the alcohol, and then set fire to the RV, creating the illusion of an accidental death. The raging fire caused the man to struggle in pain. His wife and son witnessed everything. After struggling, one of the henchmen ended his life with 2 shots. But do you think the story ends here? No, it has just begun. 10 years later, a man found one of the murderers involved in the killing. The news quickly reached the ears of the gang leader, but since the one who died was an insignificant henchman, he didn't pay much attention to it. However, the next day, his trusted henchman, Big Beard, was found dead on the street. Shortly after, Little Black, who had betrayed the man, was killed in the amusement park. It was then that the gang leader realized that the recent series of murders were related to that incident years ago. He quickly thought of the man's elderly mother who was still alive, although she was already 80 years old. If there was someone seeking revenge, it could only be him. To prevent any future trouble, he went to the old lady's house and killed her before leaving. However, to his surprise, just as he left, a person walked in. It was the man from years ago. He never could have imagined that not only was that man alive, but he had also come back for revenge, seeing his mother dead in the house. The man's anger reached its peak. But it had already been 10 years, and he needed to find the whereabouts of the gang leader and his ex-wife. However, it wasn't difficult because his ex-wife had a drug habit. So he found a drug dealer and learned the ex-wife's address from him. He arrived at her place overnight. At that time, the woman was a little out of her mind due to drug use. The man decided to give her a surprise first. The woman was scared and visibly pale. She had seen the man being shot dead with her own eyes. Why was he still alive now? The man asked his ex-wife to lure the gang leader here and he hid behind the wall, waiting quietly. As soon as the gang leader appeared, the man stabbed him in the thigh with a watermelon knife. The gang leader immediately screamed in pain and fell to the ground. The man showed no mercy and stabbed his other thigh as well. Finally, he put a pillow over the gang leader's head and sat on it. He wanted to be the one to kill his father in front of the woman. But before that, he needed to know the whereabouts of his son, because the woman liked to use drugs. Their son also became addicted. When the man learned that his son had become a beggar and was under a bridge, he resolutely pulled the trigger and killed this wicked couple. After finishing all this, he finally found his son under the bridge. During these 10 years, he had grown from a child into a teenager. The man put his son in the car and took him to a church. Only then could he leave with peace of mind. Finally, he arrived at an open space. His eyes turned pitch black. This might be the reason for his resurrection.